Hello and welcome to the Rat Nest Podcast, episode number 49 with Erik Jasek.
Hey, you left me alone on that one, bro.
My bad.
You didn't A with me.
As soon as I said your last name, I was like, fuck, did I say that right? But I think I did.
No, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we put a happy face over the A.
I'm just so used to
a
it being
soft
wrong.
vowel sound.
Like I'm like, you know, it's different when someone says it right.
I've said it. I think I've said it Jasek for the last year since I got introduced to your work and not having ever talked to you. So I've just been saying it wrong for a year. So it sounded wrong when I said it right.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with us and bullshitting with a little bit for us.
Yeah, man. Very, very cool to meet you. Thanks so much for jumping on here with us. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to pick your brain a little bit.
So glad to be on. You know.
Hell yeah. For people that don't know or that aren't familiar with your work, you're I would say cartoonist, illustrator. Do you do any other sort of medium as well? Do you paint or?
Yeah, I paint, but I do that every once in a while. I make music though as well.
All right.
Often.
Anything like are you in a formal band? Is there a place where you could like check out your stuff on Bandcamp or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Bandcamp as Swampfish Dumpster Fire, which would be the name. It's not really a band though. It's it's kind of like it's kind of like just a lo-fi one-man bedroom pop band.
So it's all you
and myself. Yeah, it's kind of likened to like Ween or something like that. It's
okay.
Kind of, you know, bizarre bedroom music.
Sick, dude.
Dang, that's what's up.
Are you playing? So you're playing all the instruments. Are you playing multiple instruments, or is it just like electronic and then you do some effects? Is it
guitar I'm playing multiple instruments. I mainly play guitar. It's kind of like my main instrument, but I also play bass. The drums I usually I'll use like a bucket or or just something. I'll work it out that way, or like I'll have I'll use keyboards every once in a while. And I'll just use like the drum keyboard. So I don't know. It's an acquired taste. Some people love it. Some people they can't stand it. But if you love it, then thanks. But,
oh yeah,
man. Us musicians are a different breed. I swear, man. Like it doesn't matter. So for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, but the same type of music I listen to and like pop on every time is not the same type of music I make. And there's like such a vast array of what the way music can reach you, and then whether it's through making it, which is a completely different style, or listening to it, which can be completely random and so off from what people would expect.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I like a lot of like kind of raw music like I make, but at the same time, like stuff that's a little bit more complex, but I like that kind of raw charm to things in a way. And it comes with art too, like.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Totally. It's funny, man, because we've played music together for years and also like been in different bands that played shows together and different stuff. And when we recorded in any band we've been in, I feel like some of the most raw and those like first like demos and like just the unpolished tracks are like my favorite shit. Like they're not mastered where they bump the same, but there's something like more authentic about it, or there's something just like a little bit more true to like the music you're playing. Whereas a little bit gets lost in production once it's mixed and mastered and like done a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that kind of like charm to just like demos and whatnot. Yeah, just like looking back at all the old Beatles demos and what
yeah, I like that too though. Yeah, like the hum of like the pickups, like my dirty heads, like in the amp, like all that stuff kind of coming through and being present, like kind of makes it for me. But I get the
definitely.
I get the appeal of wanting something that sounds good to other people too.
yeah. It's all an acquired taste, but.
So have you been playing music like a long time? Have you been doing it like since you were younger, or is this like how long have you been making music?
I've been playing guitar since I was like 12 or so, but really just like kind of writing and recording music on a regular basis. I've only been doing that since around like 2019. So
Okay.
what is that, like 3 years at this point?
Yeah.
Maybe 2018. So I don't know, 4 years. Yeah. But
Dang,
I mean, I really like it. It's a lot of fun. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
yeah, and you got
I take
started.
little breaks every once in a while, but yeah.
You got started just in time for COVID too, bro, to have all that
Yeah,
time in
yeah,
your
yeah.
room to write and record.
Stay alone in my room all day making music, drawing comics.
Hey, no one can
That's
judge
the
you
way to
for it
go.
during the pandemic, bro. We all were there. Like, hey, you know what? I guess if I'm gonna be locked in here, I might as well buy a new guitar.
Yeah, absolutely. Good times and also terrifying
Yeah, right.
nightmare.
It's weird to be
But
able to say.
in that sense,
So, all right. So you're in Georgia, right? Are you Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta proper, or just outside, or what? What do you think?
No, like I'm in the city. Yeah.
Right in the city, right on. How's that, dude?
Yeah, it's great. I like it. It's kind of I'm in a kind of bohemian, I would say, area. Have you been to Atlanta at all?
I never have
Nah.
outside the airport. I've literally like had a layover at the Atlanta airport is the closest I've ever been.
Same.
Gotcha. But yeah, no, I'm in a pretty nice area. Lots of I kind of live in like oddly enough, it's kind of like a hippie commune.
Oh, nice.
um,
Sick.
but it's but you know uh it's I've had some interesting experiences here, but I enjoy it, and it's kind of I'm in kind of a walkable area where there's a lot to kind of look around. There's a lot of like bars with live music and restaurants and you know
So
some art
are
galleries and stuff like that. So
I
it's a good area.
in
And,
no way am I going to let you just graze over the fact that you say you're living in a hippie commune. Like you got to tell me more about that. What is that like in Atlanta, Georgia, in a hippie commune?
yeah, it's interesting. A lot of like got a lot of artists and just overall eccentrics and just obviously the kind of pseudo spiritual hippie people,
Mm-hmm.
and then a couple regular people in there. They're kind of sprinkled in, but like my neighbor, he has like we all have like little separate rooms, and his room has like a hammock in the middle of the room, and then like a projector, like, and he's always playing like this like avant-garde like insane movies and like soundscapes and whatnot. Just like these are the kind of people I'm living next to.
Dude, yeah, you open your neighbor's door to ask him something, and he's like watching Holy Mountain on repeat, just in a hammock, hanging out. I get it.
With
Yeah,
blinders on. Yeah.
So funny. A friend of ours, I lived in San Diego for like 15 years, and our buddy lived in a similar situation where he shared a house with like 13 people, and like two of them had little kids, and they were all kind of that like pseudo like crystal spirituality kind of thing. And
Yeah.
and nice people, great people, but it was always just such a like you didn't know what you were getting into anytime you went into the house, because they could be doing some like meditation, they could be doing yoga with like 20 people and it just smelled like hell, or like it was always something new day to day. It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's like. A lot of sense. Like, I don't know. I sometimes just sit out on my porch, especially in the summer. But it's like every time I would sit out there, like someone would come out and a specific person would come out and do yoga. And I'm like, I feel kind of creepy because it's like I'm just trying to sit out here and someone's in front of me doing yoga. Like I'm not trying to watch. It's just like just a weird occurrence.
Yeah,
You
I was here first.
you just start making like noises. You're like,
But yeah.
yeah. That's so funny.
So
Yeah,
tell,
and then they'll probably go away. So that's a good
Yeah.
strategy.
so tell us a
Just
little
start
bit about
moving
yourself.
around
Like
a little
what
bit, yeah.
what how'd you get started like making art, and like what led you to the commune like that you're at? Like I assume it has to be art based, like the way the people that you're talking about.
Oh, I just, I kind of just moved out. Like I'm from Florida originally, and
Okay.
I've been doing art my entire life, but I really like been at doing comics since I was probably, I don't know, 18 or so.
Okay.
And I wanted to move somewhere different than, than Florida. And I thought, like, Atlanta seemed like a cool place, and like there's some opportunities out here. I know like Top Shelf is based out of here. It's a good comics publisher, and then like Adult Swim. There's like a lot of animation
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
opportunities and whatnot, like Adult Swim's out here and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I just thought it'd be cool to
There was
move
like
out here.
a huge shift, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that. But really, like a lot of the Hollywood studios and production companies made a shift to Georgia for whatever reason. The state was giving them incentive to come, lease land or like, add to the business economy, basically. So like,
Yeah, they have tax cuts and whatnot, but I see a lot of films being made around here. Like I've just walked into film sets
yeah,
Yeah,
just on
actually,
accident.
one of the
Pretty
guys
cool.
that
It's
we
pretty
interviewed
cool.
during season 1 is a producer that I used to work with, Terry Miller, and he actually saw the writing on the wall and moved here from like LA or California, Southern California, to Georgia and opened up a soundstage down there and like a production studio. And he's been crushing it. Like he was one of the first ones to get out there, and like he really worked out well for him, because he's, like I said, he predicted that it was going that way, and it was absolutely right.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities like that out here, and I don't know. It just seemed like a cool place to be for a cartoonist. And like just LA in general seems like big and scary for me. I don't know, but
See,
yeah.
I'm over here like Atlanta's got to be frightening,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Like, but yeah, LA, I guess.
it's all what you're kind of used to. I feel like too, like we grew up an hour east of LA, our whole lives. So LA to us is just like a boring city because it's almost like too familiar. It's like I don't know how to describe it.
Anytime you have to you want to go to a good concert, or you're going to LA. If you're going to like fancy restaurant, you're going into LA. So there's no more allure. I know what's there. It's all just a new version of the same stuff I've done before.
Well, and it's like, it's a huge city, and it's like, I guess it's kind of in the same vein as, New York. But it takes forever to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you live in LA, dude, it's like an hour to go fucking 20 miles. Like it's crazy.
The traffic is ridiculous.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there's no public transportation. Like the bus system and there's like a train, but they're both terrible for the size of the city. So it's not like you can even jump on public transport and be somewhere. It's like you have to drive, you have to be in a car, and all the freeways are stopped constantly. Like it's super wild. I don't know how anyone navigates it or really like enjoys living in LA proper, but
Right.
people do love it, and I have friends that live there and they do love it. So I'm a little cynical towards it. I lived in San Diego and I thought it was the best, so that's why fuck LA.
I've never been out there before, but it's from what I've heard. Yeah, it's definitely crowded and expensive and whatnot. But
What
I don't know.
So you were in Florida before this, and then now you live in Georgia. Did you like visit New York and like Boston and those like East Coast kind of quintessential cities at all?
Yeah, I've been in New York City before. I kind of love it and hate it at the same time. It's like it has that energy. It's exciting and fun, but it's also like, I don't know, it's too much.
It's overwhelming, huh?
It's overwhelming, and it's just like everywhere you go, it's a billboard of or something, it's an advertisement, someone trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
You're right
People
about the
trying to see
energy.
it, concert tickets and crack rocks on the street.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm just trying to walk here. I'm walking here.
I'm walking here. It's something alluring about that energy, though. You're right. Like you do feel it when you're there. But I feel like if you were to live there, I've only been there twice. Like I'm not saying I'm an expert in New York or anything, but I feel like if you're gonna live there, you really just have to have that hustle to make money. Like you really like it's not cheap, and there's always stuff to do. So you're always going out, you're doing stuff. If you have to, I don't know, just really work for it. I feel like to live there, which is admirable. Like awesome to anyone that lives in these big cities that I'm talking trash on. But I just, it's not for me. I don't think I could do it.
You really got to have that grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate
when
it.
you moved from Florida, what part of Florida were you in?
The Tampa Bay area.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's a beautiful area from what I understand. Again, never been in Florida, but like everything I hear, Tampa Bay is great.
Depending on where you are, I was living in like the sticks for a while. It was just a living nightmare. Nothing but elderly people and cows and
Oh
just
damn.
yeah.
Okay, well my next
It
question
wasn't for me.
my next question was going to be what drove you up to Atlanta, but it sounds like you just answered that: elderly people and cows.
Yeah, it wasn't the place I wanted to be in. I just wanted somewhere new,
Sure.
really what it comes down to.
And then you're saying like you started really getting into comic making and doing more illustration, I guess, when you were around 18. Um, was it something that you grew up like reading and being involved in? Was it like Sunday comics? Was it comic books? Like, what kind of got you into that form?
I always loved to draw and just watch cartoons and whatnot. And because like ran in high school and whatnot, I really got into film and made a couple like short films and just like YouTube videos, stuff like that. And I don't know, I the whole collaborative aspect to it, what just wasn't for me because it felt like just like too many hands in the pot, and it's just like I don't know. But I ended up just like I never really got into superhero comics too much. Nothing against that. It just wasn't really my thing. But I don't know, discovering like Crumb and Pete Bag and like this kind of stuff like that
Yeah.
kind of really got me into comics. But I basically what it came down to is just I like the writing aspect of film and I love drawing, so it's like I kind of combine that, and I think that's what comics kind of are. I think like Simon Hanselman said, like like comics are like film on paper or whatever, and yeah, I think that's kind of true in a sense.
That's cool that you brought that up or you mentioned that because when you sent me a couple of things to check out before we did this and two of them were was it Invasion on Isle 2? Am I Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, did I fuck that up right now? No, but when I was reading through them, there's a strong sense of dialogue in your work. So it's like some comic makers really depend on the picture to tell the story or to convey the idea. I think you have a good mix, almost like you were saying, like a more of a motion picture or something where the dialogue kind of drives the story as well as the imagery. Did you have any sort of like writing background or anything, or you just like movies? You like creating these stories with the dialogue?
Yeah, not so much of a background, just over time, just working on it, trying to hone my skills and whatnot. That's what it comes down to.
And I
I
think
feel like just the more time you put into something, the better you're good at, and that's just being good as a product of working hard and making more things, whatnot.
and my first introduction to your work was the Clusterfucks one, um, about a year ago when that came out. I've been lucky enough to print all those for Cameron for Clusterfucks.
Shout out Cameron.
So I kind of get a intro to the work before it drops, which is always cool to check the stuff out before it goes to print. And your comic in that, I think it was UFO Bros, stood out too, and I think because of the writing, which is something to be said, and when everything's kind of a mishmash or hodgepodge in those anthologies, there's certain ones that always kind of stick out, whether it's the artwork or the dialogue, and that one kind of had both for me. I thought it was a really clean line comic, good dialogue, like funny, easy to read.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, especially I feel like the comment I get the most is like the art style or the color palette. So it's nice to know that the writing stood out too. I appreciate that. Those characters actually, I'm doing more stuff with them because I don't know. I like that whole kind of dynamic with them.
Would you
But
say
I have another book that will come out eventually, but it's going to be with those two characters on like they're kind of couple different adventures and whatnot. I think I might include that story as well from Clusterfucks because I was pretty proud of that one. But
yeah, it's great. Would you say with a story like that, like the UFO Bros or something that you're doing, that it's more like you write the story and then kind of create the atmosphere and characters around that, or would you say that it's a lot more character driven and you're kind of trying to come up with the idea of what these characters could do?
yeah, definitely more character driven.
Okay,
I think that's my strength really. It's like I feel like I'm good at like making likable kind of crazy characters and then kind of sticking them in just weird situations, absurd situations. So
for sure.
yeah,
So not being
that
able to
definitely more character driven.
so not being able to really go from it or come from or excuse me, attack the comic or the story idea from like a a specific story direction. Do you find yourself like stuck at times? Like, what else am I going to have these guys do? Or is it like a never ending story where every day you're like, oh, I could have them do this. Oh, I could have them do that. Like, does that ever seem to pigeonhole you, or do you feel like that opens the door?
I don't necessarily feel stuck. Yeah, I think if anything, it's like I can really do anything. I can put them in any situation. That's kind of freeing to me. Yeah, usually what I do is I kind of just like sketch out like what are some different characters like they might interact with or kind of surreal situations, and I kind of just put them into that um, in a way. Yeah, I usually what I do is I kind of just I Xerox. I would get some computer paper and just kind of have like a 6 panel grid and just Xerox that and then just kind of freeform write. And if there's anything that I feel that's like lacking, I'll go over and rewrite. And that's pretty much my whole process with everything.
That
Kind
no,
of
that's
just
rad, dude. That
freeform.
being able to
Thanks.
kind of do the writing and the development of it at the same time is like great, dude. Like we've talked to some comic book artists or comics that they write the story and then go and do the imagery after the fact, or they draw a character and then they're like, what can this character do? Where can they go? Or you know what I mean? So to kind of create it at the same time, that's got to be a lot of fun and like you said, very freeing, very opening.
Yeah, for me, I'm a visual person, so it helps me write and come up with things. Well, if I'm drawing it, really. So I think we all work a little bit differently, but that helps me. And then also, when I'm stuck, I'll kind of just draw, like work on drawing the panel,
Mm.
that and like even it's like I'm not going to use the actual art. I just kind of I'll do a little detailed art piece, and then my a little light bulb will come off and be like, oh, in the next panel I can do this, and then that will lead to the next panel I can do that. So I look a lot of my scripts, and it's like usually like the first 2 panels are very detailed, and you get towards the end, and it's kind of just like a sloppy drawing. But it's all just to come up with things.
Yeah, you
It
got to
just helps
finish
me.
that idea.
Totally. I was gonna ask you. You just tabled at that event. I don't know if you tabled with Brian Judge or if you're just hanging out with him, but I saw like everyone and their mom, Nate Garcia, like
Yeah.
all the homies of the podcast that we work with or have interviewed or whatever. We're all there. Like, how much fun was that? Was it a good time with all those artists?
Oh, yeah, that was a blast. It was a blast, and it was also a nightmare because I actually lost my wallet the next day. So it's like all everything that I made from it,
Oh
or almost everything
no.
I made from the festival is gone. And I withdrew a lot of money from my account just to have like money back.
Fuck,
But
dude, that
it's not really
sucks.
about the money anyway. It's about the experience and like, I spent a lot of time making those comics, and at the end of the day, I just like I want them in people's hands. You know what I mean? So just to go there, get them in people's hands, it was just something, and getting to meet people that like Nate and like Pat Rooks and whatnot. Like, people I've seen their stuff on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and, read their books for a while. And it's like nice to actually get to meet these people in person. And yeah, it was fun.
Totally.
Hey, I don't mean to belabor that, but how much of like a fuck you universe lesson is that type of shit? Like when you use all of your energy and all this creativity to create something, and then you go have a successful day at this event, like only to lose your wallet or have something stolen from you.
Yeah, I sold out 2 books.
Oh
Too,
man!
so
Well,
like,
congratulations on that.
yeah, like it's still nice, but it's like, oh, I lost my wallet, and we still have a little card chipped reader thing, so it's like, it still made some money, but
No,
yeah,
those moments are always like, why? Like, what the fuck? Like, why would I have this? Why couldn't it be at one of the events that I didn't sell anything, or like I forgot to advertise or whatever? You know what I mean?
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, the worst part about that shit though is just like replacing your ID and like waiting for a new card and
No shit,
all that stuff. It's like the money's one
I'm still
thing,
waiting
but like
on all that stuff
just the
coming in,
hassle.
yeah.
Yeah. Were you somewhere where at least it was like kind of close by? Did you have any issues like getting home after that without a wallet?
Oh, well, the Know Nothing magazine by any chance?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They actually the Know Nothing crew gave me a ride back.
Oh, sick.
Oh, that's good.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
because I had some problems with my car, so I took a Greyhound up, which was completely miserable. Like I hated that. And a funny story with that too. There was like a young child on the bus, and within the first 10 minutes of being on the bus, he like flushed a toy down the toilet and clogged the toilet. So it was like the
Oh
entire trip, the
no!
toilet was clogged. Yeah. And there's like a woman behind me, and I could just like hear she's just like basically crying, and she's like, I'm gonna piss over this all over this goddamn bus, that fucking kid. I hate that
Oh
fucking kid.
no!
It was just like it was dirty and miserable. But I got a ride back from the Know Nothing crew, and we actually, I had a blast. And Enzo Garza
Yeah.
makes great Gut Ghost, great comics.
Insane.
He was there too, so it all kind of worked out in a way.
It's those events are exactly for that. Just like getting to know people, like making connections and like, I don't know, trading stories, I guess. It's like, hey man, I know your shit. Oh, I've seen your stuff. Like, oh, that's rad. Let me, you want to do a trade or, selling the books, like selling out 2 books is dope. Don't get me wrong. There's something to be said. Go make your money if you can make it. But I feel like a lot of that is, networking and stuff. And that's almost more important than what your sales are for the day.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And it's like the Know Nothing people. Like I've been contributing them for years now, so it was like nice to get to meet them and like hang out and
That's super
hang
sick.
out with other cartoonists.
So
Okay.
no nothing, clusterfucks. I know you've done some stuff for One and Only Comics, like the Zomic book and stuff with Brian.
Yeah,
Who else do you contribute to, or like who else do you work with?
I've done like a cheap lotto mag,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like smaller thing. I don't know if you heard of Hannah Gerald. Yeah, he's great. And then what else? Harry Nordlinger's Vacuum Decay. I was in like issue 3,
Okay,
I think, for that.
sick.
I did like that was an interesting thing because everything I do is comedy or kind of like surrealist avant-garde kind of stuff. So
Right.
it was kind of interesting doing like a horror comic, and it was still like somewhat comedic in a way, but I was kind of trying to do like I love like David Lynch, so I was trying to do like an Eraserhead kind of thing.
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of nightmarish, surreal
Yeah.
thing. That was an interesting experience doing that.
Did you change the style of like the illustration when you were working on that?
Yeah. I try to keep it my current style, but like I slightly changed it so it kind of looked somewhat scarier and had like kind of a horror, like it had sharper edges,
Right,
and
like
whatnot,
like a
just
darker feel
like
to
a
it.
match. Yeah, and like it was all in ink, so I just I used a lot of black, and yeah, I kind of studied like a velvet glove cast in iron. Like that was a big kind of inspiration on that as far like visually.
That's sick.
You know, it really speaks to your ability because when the first thought that came into my head when I looked up your work and started looking through it was like Nickelodeon-esque. You know, like it was very reminiscent of the bright orange, the bright colors, like the cool, silly commercials that you would get between shows. You know, even like Rugrats and like Cat Dog and like all those shows from when I was a kid. I got a lot of hints of that kind of stuff coming in. So it's interesting to hear someone like yourself with that style that is so comical and kind of has a fun-loving go to it to do something that is like horror, you know, or to kind of dive into that other side of it.
Yeah, it was a fun challenge for me. I think it's good to step out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, and like Zomic Book, like I did something like I said, I mostly do comedy, but like I did like and something that's kind of based off of like a Salvador Dali painting. Was just really kind of out there. Like it's like kind of like a Jim Woodring comic. There's just no words, surreal and whatnot. So I think it's good to jump out of comfort zone every once in a while.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I do get that comparison a lot, that like Nickelodeon esque, kind of like.
I mean it in the best way possible. I have no disregard for like those shows. I grew up on them, you know, so they're like part of my childhood. So I say it in the best way possible for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff. Like, like Ren and Stimpy, Doug.
Yep.
All that.
Did that kind of stuff end up would you say it influenced your art like as you were working on it, or do you think like it was when someone said, "Oh, it looks like Nickelodeon," you're like, "Oh shit, I guess it does." Yeah.
It was more the second one, really.
Yeah.
I guess it does, but I don't know. It's like, I watched a lot of kids. I watch a lot of kids. I don't watch a lot of kids. I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, so maybe like it all like filtered in at one point, it all just kind of went into my head and came out. But yeah, I don't know. I like a lot of like bright kind of color palettes and whatnot. So
yeah.
What so you were saying like earlier, like Crumb and like some of the underground like comics, or were some of the early inspiration, or like some stuff you draw some style from? What were your first like introductions to those? Because I mean they predate us by a couple decades, you know what I mean? How did you get into that, or who's the first person that showed you like a Robert Crumb like comic?
I just kind of started like making my own comics like while I was doing films and whatnot, and like I made these shitty comics and like MS Paint and stuff like that, and so like I did them like every day at one point. Like I had a lot of fun making them, and then I just decided like I wanted to branch out and start like reading comics and like getting more into the scene, and I just kind of just going in the shops and whatnot. I just kind of stumbled across like like Pete, like Hate and Crumb, and actually like a big like the Scott Pilgrim books too were kind of like a big early inspiration. That kind of art style.
I was
think a
so
lot like a
or go ahead. I was just gonna say I was so late to the game when it came to Scott Pilgrim, dude. Like my first introduction to it was the movie, and then I was like, oh, that was a fun movie. Like this has to be based off something. And then I kind of like dug into it, but yeah, it's something that I don't know, I should have known before. Like it's such a fun comic.
Yeah, it is a fun comic, and I like that kind of it's like reality and fantasy mixed together. Thing. But a lot of like just like the cartoonists, like I like a like Vice comics, like the cartoonists who did stuff for Vice.
Yeah.
Kind of like the people who like influenced me the most, I would say. It's like Dave Cooper, Johnny Ryan, Simon Hanselman.
Okay.
Alex Schubert's like a big inspiration of mine. Just like his whole color palette and that clean like kind of crisp line,
Yeah.
like something I try to kind of copy off of when I first started.
I mean, I think that's so important, man. Speaking of Vice, like David Cho was like one of my favorite artists, like in high school. Like I wanted to be able to do like the kind of shit he did, which like, honestly, like I'll never really do the same style as him. But it was like that first kind of influential thing where I was like, oh, this, like, how do you do this? Like it got my wheels turning into the, like, maybe not necessarily how do I do it exactly, but how do I recreate some of the parts I like of his work?
Yeah, I think early on for me, it's like I kind of like I copied aspects from different things and they kind of just like blended them together. And then over time, they kind of just became their own thing.
Right. It becomes your own style for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny,
Yeah,
man. Skateboard graphics were like another one, like old world industry or like cartoony blind graphics. You know, those always had a big influence on me from like the time I was in junior high.
Yeah.
Again, not necessarily like the style I try to create now, but definitely those early influences of how do you do that? How do I make it look that good? Tracing comics, tracing like Sunday papers and stuff to like try to feel those lines.
Yeah, big time. I like early on I wanted like to have like a distinct kind of style that stood out because like a lot of the cartoonists that I liked the most kind of had like I don't know, this is like a recognizable style and it kind of took me a while to get there, but I feel like I've kind of reached that in a way. But it's always at the same time, it's always kind of evolving and changing ever so slightly. But a lot of just like what it also inspired me is like a lot of like street art in my hometown. Saint I don't know if you know St. Pete, Florida. I lived there for a while, and like there's a lot of like kind of kooky, kind of surreal street art and whatnot. And it's just like everybody had their specific style. So if you saw like you know just a piece of art on the street, you would know it's from this guy.
Right. Yeah.
That was like their thing. So like yeah, like try to do that with my comics and whatnot, and I have something that like sticks out that people recognize. And,
how much would you say like your style in music and like that? Because we all know, especially growing up being musicians, like your music kind of tends to be your scene or your what you identify with and like how you act and react. You know, how much would you say your style in music and the music you create has influenced your art, or would you say they're separate, or do you think they're one and the same, or how do you view that?
yeah, they're kind of one and the same, but also very different. Like they're both like DIY in a sense, because I'm at the end of the day, I'm just some guy who just picked up a pencil or like guitar and just kind of did stuff for the long enough period of time to be somewhat coherent.
Yeah.
And they both kind of have that like I don't know that comical, just kind of immature, childlike kind of sense of humor to it. And but I think like my music's much more rough, and I kind of like it that like I like that roughness to it.
Yeah.
But like my art's kind of it's very like my art style of comics is very like clean and precise kind of look. So there is that kind of disconnect, but at the same time, it both like it kind of has that same sensibility.
You do have a clean comic style, especially
absolutely
on like some of the the UFO Bros compared to the Invasion on LL2. I would say UFO Bros is much cleaner. Just in the line work itself, how round everything is, how the shape of everything. But then I was reading through the Invasion ones, and it was fun to me because it was a little rougher. Like it was like a little bit more. The lines just weren't as round or as clean. Still bold, still dynamic. Like the line quality is there, but not necessarily the shapes. Like the shape of the character who's in the wheelchair, who's like the main, like not the main guy, but the one he's talking to in the store, and then hooks up with the guys outside after the first issue or during the end of the first issue. Like that to me had a little bit more of like maybe like a Beavis and Butthead, or like just like a little rougher, like a little like not as clean style to it, even though it wasn't sketchy by any means.
Yeah.
Is that something that was like intentional, or was that something that is just kind of when you're creating, this is how I'm creating these characters?
Not necessarily. Maybe it's just because I started that book a long time ago. So I involved I evolved with the book. Like, you know, if you read the first page of the first book and then the last page of the last book, it's like pretty noticeable. But yeah, not necessarily. That whole book I was just kind of experimenting with not so much experiment, but experimenting with myself I didn't use lines like for a purpose, because I feel like a lot of like cartoonists, they're like heavily line art, just like cross hatching and whatnot. So like I just wanted to get away from using lines entirely, and most of that was actually drawn on pencil, and then I like put it in Photoshop, used the lasso tool, and then like colored it, took out the pencil line, which, as crazy as that sounds, it was like faster than doing everything just by hand in Photoshop without the line. But it took a long time. It's just
it you mentioned earlier like your first works and stuff, it was just doing comics in MS Paint or whatever, and it almost has a reminiscent like feel to that kind of creation, like a very like, I don't know, like a basic vibe to it, if that makes sense. Like,
or it's like the genesis, you know, like when Paint was out, we were excited to be able to draw something on a computer. It didn't matter if it was pixelated or a little bit like not as good as, or not, I don't want to say as good, but like not as detailed as a hand drawing. You know, it was like the medium, like what it was.
Yeah, it's a little looser.
Yeah, like what it was exciting. And yeah, I know, I agree with you. Like there is a sense of like, I don't know if it's the nostalgia that I get from it, but like when I look, the characters just are exciting. Like they're fun to look at. The lines that are there make them, you could see the character in them. You know what I'm saying? And a specific example I have is like from your Instagram when you drew that character of Brian Judge. Like I don't know if it's a piece of toast or like exactly like what he like is, but you see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's Brian. I got it.
Yeah, I think it was like the blend bot, the not blend bot.
Oh yeah, bot. It's like a
bounty bot.
Yeah, bounty bot.
Yeah, that's another one, dude. Brian, you and Brian are some of the most prolific like fucking cartoonists I've seen in the last year since we started Rat Nest, in the sense that I hadn't followed you guys before that, and the amount of work that you've done in a year is pretty crazy.
Seriously.
Yeah, especially Brian. Like
he's a maniac, bro.
He's hard to keep up with. I see all the stuff he made. Like,
did you do his Ghostbusters 2 podcast?
Yeah, I did. I was kind of embarrassing, but
well, I didn't listen to it. But
he's really going out in that whole Ghostbusters 2 podcast. When we were actually in at Noyce in Virginia at the booth, he like towards the end, I think he was a little drunk. He just like everybody who came up, he would start talking about Ghostbusters 2, and I'm like, Ryan,
dude,
comics are supposed to be selling right now. You're going off on this Ghostbusters 2 nonsense.
That's so funny. We
didn't even like mention the comics. It was just like 100% Ghostbuster 2. He's sticking to the bit.
Yeah,
he's sticking to the bit.
Hell yeah,
I appreciate that.
Committed to the craft, baby. We did a pop up in North Carolina, and he came down and just hung out. Shot the shit with a couple of the other artists and stuff. And he didn't even drink because he had to drive back to wherever he was staying. It was like a 30-minute drive or something. He didn't want to, get drunk or anything, but it was at a brewery. So we're all drinking and shit. And he was making us laugh, bro. He was coming up with the most wild questions. He'd be like, do you think you could beat up
Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah, no, it was who directed Edward Scissorhands? What's his fucking name?
Yeah.
Oh, Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. He's like, who do you think would win in a fight between you and Tim Burton? He was like asking everyone and shit. It's like, How does your mind work? This is so good.
It was beautiful. We were looking for content, and he was like, "I got you for content all day long." And he was talking to people about the most random stuff.
Yeah,
Such a good dude, such a fun-loving guy. Like, it was a pleasure getting to meet him out there in North Carolina.
And just a workhorse, like you said, or like we both said, he's just constantly creating, which is nuts. But that's cool that like I saw that. I didn't know if you had done it. That podcast with him, but I saw that he had tagged you in something. That's why I asked. So
Yeah, I was in that, and I'm always being dragged along in the stuff he makes. I'm happy to say. I guess that kind of came off a little, but yeah. I was gonna mention the bounty bot comic too. Kind of funny story. Like, he asked me to do that comic, and the story I did was like extremely offensive. It was like bounty bot like he's like an assassinator, and he like loses his job, and like he ends up like giving like a homeless man like a blow job, and like tries to kill himself.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was like really dark. And he sent me back and was like, "This is supposed to be for kids." Yeah, so they had to like completely redraw everything.
Yeah, this is no longer him sucking a homeless dude's dick. It's an ice cream cone.
Yeah, he was like, "You can just blur that out and we'll use that." And I'm like, "This, you said this is supposed to be for kids." Like, so I just like had to redraw.
Yeah, I want to see the first drafts.
Seriously.
Email me the first drafts. I'll publish it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Like I got the first page made for that. I want to finish the second one and just have it up there.
Oh yeah,
put it in something of his. But yeah.
Speaking on current work, I mean that bounty bot, I printed that too for him, and that was what, like 2 or 3 months ago maybe. And you said you're working on something for the new Clusterfucks. Is it for the free comic book day issue?
It's Clusterfucks. What are we?
4
5 now?
I think it'll be 4 is the next. But I think he has 4 done. It might be 5 because Cameron, like, he loads up beforehand. Like he has 5 done before 4 comes out, kind of thing.
I think it's 5. I don't even know entirely, but it's gonna be another UFO Bros story.
Sick.
He actually really liked the first story on there. A lot of people did, including myself. So I'm making one for that issue, and then I got, like I said earlier, I'm making like a UFO Bros comic. But yeah.
Are you gonna do it where it's one story, or are you gonna do it like anthology style, but it's all UFO Bros?
Yeah, it's gonna be like anthology style, but it's gonna be like the stories are like 15 pages long, so it's gonna be like 3 stories.
Okay, yeah, that's cool, man.
So I mean, it's kind of like it's gonna be kind of like a Meg Mog and Owl kind of like thing. Well, maybe actually a little bit long. Like I said, like 15-page stories.
Sick.
But just yeah, it'll be fun. And then I'm working on just kind of formatting my old web comics and whatnot. Just that I kind of just been sitting on my computer for a while, and I got some comics friends to make their own comics at the end, and I'm gonna put that in there. And yeah, and then I'm working on freelance work too, so it's like I got all this stuff piled up.
Yeah. Do you work a day job?
I like to be busy. So
do you work a day job, or is everything art based?
Yeah, no, I work a day job. I work at like a restaurant, but like I said, I've also been doing some freelance stuff too, so it's been nuts.
Very nice.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hey, not to throw back too far in the conversation, but like moving from, what'd you say, St. Peter's, Florida, or in the sticks of Florida, as you put it, moving from there to Atlanta, like, would you say that influenced or changed the way that you're making art, or at least the outcome of the art that you're creating, just from the environment that you're in?
Yeah, to some extent. I feel like everything that goes on in my life, like whether I want to or not, if I just, make a story just for the pure fact to try to be funny or whatnot. Some of my life comes into that, like what's going on in my life. So yeah, just like being in the middle of nowhere, like a lot of that kind of angst of just like, being kind of lost in the middle of nowhere. It's like that kind of came into my comics at the time. So
see that it's almost like the dialogue is your inner dialogue, and like the feelings that some of these characters feel are like the feelings you felt at some point. And you can kind of create these backstories to these characters by your own backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like just like with anything I make, really, whether it be comics or music or paintings or whatnot, like just like I said earlier, it's like if I'm not even trying to say something about my life or a, a personal view I have, it just comes in. I'm just not just trying to make something, and it's like, oh, I'll look back at it. I'm like, oh, I was trying to say this in this comic.
Right, but it's like subconsciously, like you don't realize it at the time. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, like I wouldn't even be like nobody would be able to point it out other than me sometimes.
Yeah,
but it just comes in. I'm like, hey, that's kind of strange. I didn't realize I was saying this about my life or me.
Yeah,
that's so funny, dude. All right, so before we get wrapped up here, what else do you have coming up that people can check out, or like what do you have going on in the near future? This will be out in 6 weeks. Yeah. So it'll be a minute. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So I have like I have a compilation of my web comics. Will be coming out soon. I hate to like give dates and times because I feel like every time I'm like, hey, it's gonna be out by this month. It ends up being like 6 monends after that.
Yeah, don't jinx yourself.
The compilation, it should be out soon. I just got to format everything. That's going to be called Jurassic Soup. Just like yeah. And then I got UFO Bros, Beatniks in Space, which will be like the first compilation of stories with the UFO Bros. That will be out sometime. I don't know, but it'll be out. And more stuff for Zomic, the Zomic book 2. I'll be in that. I'm doing a collaboration with Andy Bowandy, that Birds of Sadness.
Sick.
Yeah.
And then Clusterfucks 4 or 5 or wherever the hell we're at this point. In that. So those are the projects I'm working on.
Sick, dude. And I'll double check with you like when we drop this, and we can get a more up to date, like go check this out on the description and stuff. But just wanted to get that out there, let people know what you got going on, what you're working on, and where they can check it out at. Do you have what's your website?
It's I have a big cartel where you can buy my comics.
Yep.
So that would be Jurassic Jasek, Big Cartel, and then at my Instagram is Jurassic Jasek, which is my last name, Jasek. And that has the link in the bio, has my Big Cartel and like my Bandcamp and everything on there. So
and definitely, you update pretty often. There's a lot of current work that you're doing, even if it's just one-offs and stuff. I mean, seems like you're posting pretty regularly on there.
Yeah. I try. Sometimes, I'll be like every multiple times a week, and sometimes just I'll go through periods, but I try to be as prolific as I can be and have different things going on in my, always working on something. So
hell yeah. Well, keep churning out that content, dude. It's definitely good. It's always good to see someone with a good talent and a good eye for comics continuing to make them and putting out as much as you are. So keep up the good work, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anything else you want to drop before we get out of here?
I think that should be it. That's everything that I'm working on. But yeah, Invasion on Isle 2, of course.
Yes.
And that's available. That's available on the Big Cartel currently.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, that is on there. I actually, like I said, I sold out of the first book. that will be. I'll have more printing in the future here,
Awesome.
but eventually.
Cool, man.
But yeah,
But if it's
yeah, and then Zomic book, everything Brian, all the Brian compilations. I'm basically in somewhere.
okay, sick.
Yeah, heck
Yeah, dude. We'll keep everyone posted on that when we drop this. Like I said, it'll be a few weeks. We made the mistake of actually recording a bunch of episodes like in advance, which we haven't done yet. And now we're like, fuck, like this isn't going to come out for like 2 months, but is what it
I
is.
feel like that's the best way to do it, though. I don't know. I've never had a podcast. But
Yeah, neither have we. We're figuring it out.
Yeah,
bro.
right.
But hell yeah, man. Let me do this outro and then we'll chit chat a second more.
Dude, it was very nice to meet you, Eric. Thank you so much for your time and staying up late with us. I know it's getting kind of late out there where you're at, so I appreciate your time, man.
We're happy. Thanks for having me on. It's a great time, man.
Totally.
Absolutely, man.
This has been another episode of the Rat Nest Podcast. You can catch us every week on YouTube for the video and anywhere you listen to your podcast for the audio. Go to ratneststickerco.com for zines, comics, stickers, prints, and more. You can check us out on Instagram at Rat Nest Podcast and at Rat Nest Sticker Co. See you next week. Jim?
See ya.